Hello everybody, my name is Mauro. I am a software craftsperson at Codurance, and today I'm going to show you how to set up a PHP environment for you to be able to develop your own solutions to programming katas. So first of all, I want to show you a little bit about my current running environment. So let's see, my PHP version is 8.19, and that's the one I'm going to be using moving forward. And the first thing I want to show you is a repository that we have at Codurance, where we host several different starting points for different languages. So the repository I'm talking about is this Codurance Katalyst Kickstart. And as you can see, we have base projects for C++, Java, PHP, Python, Ruby, etc. So the one we're going to be using is, of course, the PHP one. So let's start by cloning the repository. So let's make a git clone. And so there we go. So now let's get into the PHP project to see what we have. So as we can see, there is a composer.json definition, readme file, setup.sh, which is a script we're going to be discussing pretty soon. And let's see what's inside the source directory. So there is a class already defined, and there is also a test directory, which holds a test. Okay, so in order for us to be able to run the test, we need to have the test runner installed in our local environment. And the test runner that we are going to be using is PHP unit. And so let's just execute the setup script, which will download the dependencies that we need and get everything in place. First, it will download the composer itself. Then when it has the composer binary available, it will install PHP unit. And finally, it will run a simple test to make sure everything works as expected. And that seems to be the case. So now we are ready to code our solution to a kata. And for that purpose, it's very convenient to use an IDE. The one I'll be using is PHP Storm. Let's get it started. The first thing we want to do is create a new project. In this case, a new project based on existing files. And I don't need a web server for the moment. So let's go to, yes, Katalyst Kickstart and PHP. That will be the root directory of our project. Okay, so here we have a README file, which is basically explaining everything that I just told you about. The important part here is how to use it. So you build your classes in the source directory and your tests in test directory. And once you're ready, you can use PHP unit test to run the tests. So let's take a look. The source directory, as I mentioned, has a class defined, which has one method returning an integer, in this case number 0. And the test is, it's based on PHP unit framework, of course, and it will check that the result of calling a method on an instance of a class is actually 0. So let's try to run the test. And okay, so since this is the first time that we want to make this run, we need to establish a few parameters for the runner. And the most important one is which will be the PHP interpreter that we are going to be using. So let's hit the fix button and say what language level. Well, I would like to use the most up-to-date language level, which is 8.1. And the CLI interpreter, I will use the one that I shown you earlier, my PHP 8.1. So now I apply, okay. And now we are ready to run the test. So let's do it. All right, so now that we have run the test, we can see here that we have the result of running the test. Here you have the whole command that the IDE is executing. For your reference, if you want to have it in hand. And so great, now we are ready to run tests. And another very convenient thing that you can do when doing TDD, which is the idea for solving these katas, is to activate the auto test functionality. This will, in fact, what it will do is have the IDE spawn the test at every single change that you make to your code. So let's see it running. So I have my A class. Let's say I change this 0 for a 1. And there we go. Now you can see how the IDE has run the test automatically, and it's telling me that the test failed, of course, because it was expecting a 0 instead of a 1. So now with all this in place, you do have a very good starting point for coding your own solutions to the katas. A couple of things you might want to also add on top of this is first install Xdebug, which will be very much useful when you're trying to figure out what went wrong with your code. And another thing you might want to look at is to have the code run on top of some Docker container. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you got everything ready to code your way to the katas. See you soon.